My brother tells everyone I'm antisocial to justify why his family should have my apartment instead. Hi everyone! Today's story will blow your mind, but really quick, if you enjoy this content, hit that subscribe button. Channel's been a bit quiet lately, and your support keeps it all going. Let's jump in. I never thought I'd be writing this, but I need someone to tell me if I'm losing my mind here. My name is Nathan, I'm 29, and I've always been what people call an introvert. Not in the cute, quirky way you see in movies. I genuinely prefer spending most of my time alone. I work as a software developer remotely, I have a small circle of friends I see maybe once a month, and I'm perfectly content with my life. Or at least I was, until my brother Michael decided that my personality was a problem that needed fixing. Michael is 31, married to Jennifer, and they have 2 kids, Tyler who's 6 and Olivia who's 4. They've been living in a cramped 2-bedroom apartment across town for the past 3 years, constantly complaining about the lack of space. Meanwhile, I live in our grandmother's old 3-bedroom apartment that she left to me specifically in her will 2 years ago. She always said I was the only one who appreciated the quiet the same way she did. The apartment is in a great neighborhood, close to good schools, and has a small garden in the back. It's perfect for a family, which is exactly why Michael thinks he should have it instead of me. But instead of just asking me directly or trying to work out some arrangement, he's chosen a different strategy, convincing everyone that there's something wrong with me for wanting to live alone. It started small. At family dinners, he'd make comments like, "Nathan's still holed up in that big apartment all by himself," or, "I worry about him rattling around in there with no one to talk to." Our parents would brush it off, but I could see Jennifer nodding along, adding her own concerns about how unhealthy it was for someone my age to be so isolated. Then the comments got more pointed. During Thanksgiving, Michael gave this whole speech about the importance of family and community, all while staring directly at me. He talked about how humans are social creatures, and how isolation can lead to dangerous thought patterns. Our cousin Laura, who's studying psychology, tried to interject that introversion is perfectly normal, but Michael talked over her, saying he'd been reading studies about the dangers of self-imposed isolation. The real escalation came last month. I had declined to attend Tyler's birthday party, not because I don't love my nephew, but because it was a massive event with 30 kids and their parents, and I'd already made plans to work on a personal coding project that weekend. I sent a nice gift and called Tyler to wish him happy birthday, but apparently that wasn't enough. Michael called me the next day, and I could tell he was building up to something. "Nathan," he said, using that concerned big brother voice that immediately put me on edge, "we need to talk about your behavior." "My behavior?" I asked, genuinely confused. "You missed Tyler's birthday. Again." "I didn't miss it. I called him and sent a gift. I just didn't attend the party." "That's the problem, Nathan. You never attend anything. Mom's worried, Dad's worried, Jennifer and I are worried. This isn't normal." I tried to explain that I'm just introverted, that I show love in different ways, but he wasn't having it. He kept using phrases like antisocial tendencies and self-isolating behavior, terms he'd clearly Googled to make his point sound more legitimate. "Look," he finally said, "I'm just going to say it. You living alone in that big apartment isn't healthy. You need people around you, Nathan. You need life, energy, kids running around. The apartment is being wasted on you." There it was. The real reason for his concern. "So this is about the apartment," I said flatly. "No." "Well, yes, partly. Think about it. Tyler and Olivia could each have their own room, they'd have a yard to play in, good schools nearby. Meanwhile, you're using 3 bedrooms as what? An office. A gaming room? It's selfish, Nathan." I hung up on him. Maybe that was childish, but I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He was trying to pathologize my personality to justify taking my home. Since then, he's ramped up his campaign. He's been calling our parents daily, sending them articles about social isolation and depression. He's convinced our Aunt Patricia that I'm showing warning signs of something serious. He even reached out to my ex-girlfriend Amanda from 3 years ago, fishing for information about whether I was like this when we were together. Amanda, bless her, told him to mind his own business and immediately texted me about it. The worst part is that some family members are starting to buy into it. My mom called yesterday, suggesting maybe I should talk to someone about my isolation issues. When I pointed out that I'm happy, successful, and financially stable, she said, "But honey, happiness isn't just about money." Michael showed me this article about people who think they're happy alone but are actually deeply depressed. I'm at my wit's end. I love my quiet life. I love my apartment with its book-lined walls and peaceful garden. I love being able to work on my projects without interruption, to decide on a whim to spend my Saturday reading or coding or just thinking. There's nothing wrong with me. I just don't want the life Michael has decided everyone should want. But now I'm second-guessing myself. Am I being selfish keeping a family-sized apartment to myself? Is there something actually wrong with preferring solitude? Or is my brother just manipulating everyone because he wants what I have? I don't know what to do. How do I defend my lifestyle choices when he's framing them as symptoms of a problem? How do I convince my family that being introverted isn't a mental illness? And how do I deal with the growing pressure to give up my home to prove I'm normal? Any advice would be appreciated. I feel like I'm going crazy, which is ironic since that's exactly what Michael wants everyone to think. Update 1, 2 weeks later. I want to thank everyone who responded to my original post. Your comments gave me the confidence to stand my ground, but unfortunately, things have escalated in ways I never imagined. After reading your advice, I decided to have a calm, rational conversation with my parents. I invited them over for dinner at my apartment, thinking if they saw how well I was doing, how clean and organized everything was, how normal my life was, they'd realize Michael was overreacting. The dinner started well. I cooked their favorite meal, we chatted about their recent vacation, and everything seemed normal. Then my mom brought up the elephant in the room. "Nathan, we need to talk about your situation," she said, exchanging a look with my father. "What situation?" I asked, though I knew exactly what she meant. "Your isolation, honey. Michael's been sharing some concerning things with us." I took a deep breath and launched into the explanation I'd prepared. I talked about introversion versus extroversion, how different people need different levels of social interaction, how I was perfectly happy with my life. I even showed them my recent work performance review, excellent across the board, and my latest medical checkup results, perfectly healthy. My dad seemed to be coming around, nodding as I spoke. But my mom looked unconvinced. "But Nathan," she said, "when was the last time you went on a date? When was the last time you did something spontaneous with friends? These are normal things people your age do." "I went to dinner with my friend Aaron last month," I pointed out. "And I'm not interested in dating right now. That's a choice, not a symptom." That's when she dropped the bombshell. "Michael thinks you might be on the spectrum, honey. He found this checklist online, and you match a lot of the criteria." I felt my jaw drop. The spectrum? Mom, are you seriously suggesting I'm autistic because I like living alone? Well, the social difficulties, the rigid routines, the special interests in computers. I'm a software developer. Computing isn't a special interest. It's my career. The conversation devolved from there. Every point I made was countered with something Michael had told them or shown them. Apparently, he'd been building this case for weeks, complete with screenshots of articles, YouTube videos about hidden signs of adult autism, and even a PowerPoint presentation, I wish I was joking, about the benefits of community-supported living for people with social challenges. The next day, I got a call from Michael. He was furious that I'd ambushed our parents with dinner instead of having a proper family meeting about my issues. When I told him to stop pathologizing my personality, he accused me of being in denial. "This isn't about the apartment," he insisted. "This is about your well-being. But since you brought it up, yes, I think living somewhere smaller, maybe closer to family, would be better for you. And it would be a crime to let Grandma's apartment sit empty of children's laughter when Tyler and Olivia could be growing up there." "It's not empty," I said through gritted teeth. "I live there. You exist there, Nathan. There's a difference." I hung up again. But this time, he didn't let it go. 2 days later, I got a call from my supervisor at work. Michael had contacted my company's HR department, expressing concern about my work-from-home situation. He suggested that I might be struggling with depression and that the isolation of remote work was making it worse. Thankfully, my supervisor knows me well and recognized this as the bizarre overreach it was, but she had to follow up as a formality. Then he contacted my landlord for my previous apartment, trying to find out if I'd had problems with neighbors or if there had been any concerning incidents during my tenancy. The landlord called me, confused, saying my brother was asking strange questions about my mental health and whether I'd ever needed wellness checks. The most infuriating part? Michael's doing all of this while maintaining his concerned brother facade. He posts on Facebook about the importance of mental health awareness and supporting family members who are struggling. Our mutual friends think he's being so supportive and caring. Jennifer comments on every post about what a wonderful brother-in-law I'm lucky to have. Meanwhile, in our family group chat, he started sharing daily articles. 10 signs your loved one needs help. The hidden dangers of social isolation. Why some people can't see their own mental health struggles. Each one is clearly aimed at me, but framed as general concern for family wellness. Last week, He suggested a family intervention. He actually used that word, intervention. Like I'm an addict or something. He wants everyone to gather at our parents' house to lovingly confront me about my issues and help me see that I need support. I refused. I told him if he scheduled such a meeting, I wouldn't attend. His response: "Your refusal to engage with family concern is just another symptom, Nathan. We're trying to help you." I'm starting to feel like I'm trapped in some kind of psychological thriller. Every normal thing I do is twisted into evidence of a problem. I like routine. That's rigidity. I enjoy solitude. That's isolation. I don't want to attend loud, crowded events. That's social anxiety. I work from home successfully. That's enabling my condition. The stress of constantly defending my lifestyle is ironically making me want to isolate even more. I've started screening calls, avoiding family texts, and yes, spending even more time alone, which I'm sure Michael will spin as further deterioration. I've made an appointment with a therapist, not because I think there's anything wrong with me, but because I need a professional to document that I'm perfectly fine. It feels insane that I need to prove my sanity to keep my brother from convincing everyone I'm unwell, but here we are. I'll update again after the therapist appointment and whatever fresh hell Michael comes up with next. Thank you all for helping me feel less alone in this, even if being alone is apparently my crime. Update 2, 1 month later. The therapist appointment went exactly as I expected. Dr. Robert Stevens, who came highly recommended, listened to my situation with increasing incredulity. After our second session, he was happy to write a letter stating that I showed no signs of depression, autism, or any other condition that would impair my ability to live independently. In fact, he commended me on my self-awareness and healthy coping mechanisms. If anything, he told me, the stress you're experiencing from your family's interference is the only threat to your mental health I can see. Armed with this professional opinion, I thought I could finally put this nonsense to rest. I was wrong. Michael's response to the therapist's letter was to suggest that I had manipulated the therapist or hidden my true self during the sessions. He actually said, "Of course you can act normal for an hour when you're paying someone to listen to you. That's not the same as maintaining real relationships." The irony of him accusing me of manipulation while he orchestrated this entire campaign wasn't lost on me. Things came to a head 3 weeks ago. I was having a perfectly normal Thursday, working on a complex coding project, when I heard a knock at my door. Not the buzzer. Someone was at my actual apartment door, which meant they'd been let into the building. I opened it to find Michael, Jennifer, my parents, and, to my shock, 2 people I didn't recognize. "Nathan," my mother said, her eyes already tearing up, "we're here because we love you." The 2 strangers turned out to be a social worker and a family counselor that Michael had hired. They'd all come for an intervention, despite my explicit refusal to participate in one. "You can't just ambush me at my home," I said, blocking the doorway. "The fact that you see family concern as an ambush is exactly why we're worried," Michael said, trying to peer around me into my apartment. "Please, Nathan, just let us in. Let us help you." I stood my ground. I'm not letting a social worker into my home without a warrant or valid reason. This is harassment. The social worker, a woman named Carol, looked uncomfortable. "Mr. Thompson, I should clarify that I'm here in an unofficial capacity. Your brother hired me as a consultant, not through any official channels. You're under no obligation to speak with me." This admission seemed to frustrate Michael. "Carol, please, tell him what you told me about isolation and mental health." Carol shifted awkwardly. "I shared some general information about social isolation, but I cannot and will not diagnose someone I haven't properly evaluated, especially against their will." The family counselor, a man named Dr. Brian Phillips, tried a different approach. "Nathan, your family is here because they care. Sometimes we need help seeing what others can see clearly. Would it hurt to just talk?" "I've been talking," I said firmly. "I've been explaining, defending, and justifying my perfectly normal life for months. I'm done. You all need to leave." That's when Michael played what he clearly thought was his ace card. "Fine. Nathan. If you won't let us help you, then let's talk about Grandma's will." Everyone went silent. Even Jennifer looked surprised. "What about it?" I asked. "I've been talking to a lawyer. There might be grounds to contest it based on your mental state." "My mental state 2 years ago when she died? When I was 27 and had been living independently for years?" "No," he said, and his voice had lost all pretense of concern. "Grandma's mental state. She left the apartment to you because she was isolated too, Nathan. She enabled your behavior because she saw herself in you. A competent person would have seen that a family home should go to an actual family. The mask had finally slipped completely. My mother gasped, "Michael!" and even Jennifer looked shocked. The social worker and counselor exchanged uncomfortable glances. "Get out," I said quietly. "All of you. Get out of my building before I call the police." My father, who had been silent this whole time, finally spoke up. "Michael, that's enough. We're leaving." He took my mother's arm and started guiding her toward the elevator. Michael tried one more time. "This isn't over, Nathan. You need help, whether you see it or not." "What I need," I said, "is a restraining order." That shut him up. They all left, but not before I heard Jennifer whisper furiously to Michael in the hallway, "You said this was about helping him." Since then, I've had to take actual steps to protect myself. I've installed a Ring doorbell and additional security cameras. I've documented every interaction, every text, every Facebook post. I've consulted with a lawyer of my own about harassment charges and what grounds Michael might actually have to contest the will. Spoiler, none. The family has been divided. My parents are mortified by Michael's behavior at the ambush, especially his comment about Grandma. Several cousins have reached out to support me, sharing their own stories of Michael's manipulative behavior over the years. Apparently, I'm not the first family member he's tried to steamroll to get what he wants. But the damage to our relationship is done. How do you come back from your brother trying to have you declared mentally incompetent so he can steal your home? How do you sit across from him at Christmas dinner knowing he spent months building a case that you're unfit to live alone? The latest development is that Jennifer has been reaching out, trying to apologize. She claims she didn't know how far Michael was planning to take things, that she thought it really was about concern for my well-being. She's been staying with her sister Patricia for the past week, taking the kids with her. "He convinced me you were struggling," she texted me yesterday. "I should have talked to you directly instead of believing everything he said. I'm sorry, Nathan. The apartment thing. I swear I didn't know that was his real motive." I want to believe her, but trust is hard to come by these days. Especially when Michael is now painting himself as the victim on social media, claiming I'm tearing the family apart by refusing help and threatening legal action against a concerned brother. I'm exhausted. Ironically, this whole ordeal has made me value my solitude even more. The quiet of my apartment, the peace of my garden, the simple joy of existing without constant scrutiny or judgment, these things feel more precious than ever. Dr. Stevens, my therapist, has been a godsend through this. "You know what's interesting," he said in our last session. "Your brother has exhibited more concerning behavior in his campaign against you than anything you've supposedly done. Manipulation, harassment, attempting to isolate you from support systems, gaslighting, these are actually warning signs of psychological issues." I hadn't thought of it that way, but he's right. In trying to paint me as mentally unwell, Michael has revealed his own issues with control, entitlement, and manipulation. I'll update again if anything significant happens. For now, I'm focusing on protecting my peace and my home. And yes, I'm doing it alone, in my big apartment, with my books and my code and my garden. Because despite what my brother thinks, that's not a symptom of illness, it's a choice. My choice. Final update, 4 months later. I debated whether to write this final update, but I feel like I owe it to everyone who's followed this bizarre journey. The last 4 months have been a roller coaster, but I'm finally in a place where I can say this chapter of my life is closed. About 2 months after my last update, things were relatively quiet. Michael and I hadn't spoken, Jennifer was still separated from him and living with her sister, and the family was slowly healing from the drama. I'd started to relax, thinking maybe it was over. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, I got a call from my building's management. They'd received a wellness check request from the police, saying a concerned family member had reported that I hadn't been seen or heard from in weeks and might be in danger. I was literally on a video call with 3 colleagues when the police knocked. I answered the door with my laptop in hand, clearly in the middle of a work meeting, very much alive and well. The 2 officers looked embarrassed. "Sir, we're sorry to bother you. We received a call that you might be in distress, hadn't been responding to family contacts." "I'm fine," I said, showing them my active work meeting. "My brother has been harassing me. There's documentation with my lawyer." They took notes and left, but I was shaken. Michael had escalated to making false police reports. The next day, it got worse. My parents showed up at my door, frantic. Michael had told them he'd driven by my apartment at various times over the past week and never saw lights on, never saw me coming or going. He'd convinced them I was either dead inside or had abandoned the apartment and was living on the streets somewhere. "We've been calling you," my mother cried. I pulled out my phone, showing her no missed calls. That's when we realized Michael had been telling them he'd been calling me from their phones when they weren't around, deleting the call logs to make it seem like I was ignoring them. The manipulation was so calculated, so cruel. He was literally trying to drive a wedge between me and our parents by faking rejected communications. But here's where things took an unexpected turn. Tyler, my 6-year-old nephew, became the unlikely hero of this story. Jennifer had been bringing the kids to visit my parents while she figured things out with Michael. Tyler, always a bright kid, overheard one of these conversations about Uncle Nathan not answering calls. "But Daddy said Uncle Nathan blocked everyone," Tyler piped up innocently. "He showed me on his phone. He said Uncle Nathan doesn't want to talk to us anymore because he's sick in his head." The room went silent. My mother asked Tyler to repeat what he'd said, and the 6-year-old, not understanding the gravity of his words, cheerfully explained how Daddy had shown him a special app that makes it look like calls were made when they weren't. How Daddy said it was a grown-up game to help Uncle Nathan get better. My father immediately called me, and for the first time in months, I heard real anger in his voice, directed at Michael, not me. They confronted Michael that evening, and faced with Tyler's innocent revelation, he couldn't deny it. The full truth came out in a spectacular fashion. Michael had been in significant debt, gambling, it turned out. Online poker had spiraled out of control during the pandemic, and he'd hidden it from everyone, including Jennifer. He'd convinced himself that if he could just get the apartment, he could sell his current place, pay off the debts, and no one would ever know. Every article about mental health, every concerned conversation, every manipulative tactic had been carefully planned to justify taking my home. He'd researched for months, learning just enough psychology terminology to sound credible, identifying which family members would be most susceptible to his narrative. Jennifer was devastated. She genuinely believed I was struggling and that Michael was trying to help. Learning that he'd used their children in his scheme, that he'd risked our entire family's relationships for money he'd gambled away, it was too much. She filed for divorce within the week. The family rallied around her and the kids. My parents, horrified by how completely they'd been manipulated, have been in therapy themselves to process the betrayal. They've apologized countless times, though I've told them they don't need to. Michael is a master manipulator who knew exactly which buttons to push. As for Michael himself, he's facing charges for filing a false police report and harassment. Jennifer's divorce lawyer has been very interested in his gambling debts and the lengths he went to hide them. He's lost his family, his reputation, and any sympathy he might have garnered. The irony isn't lost on me. In trying to paint me as mentally unwell and isolated, he's ended up actually alone, facing very real consequences for his actions. Meanwhile, I've never felt more supported by my family, minus one brother, or more secure in my choices. My apartment is still my sanctuary. I still work from home, still enjoy my solitude, still tend my garden and read my books. But now, when I choose to be alone, it's without the weight of defending that choice. My family understands that my introversion isn't a flaw to be fixed or a symptom to be treated, it's just who I am. Tyler and Olivia visit sometimes. We have quiet afternoons where they read in the garden or help me with simple coding projects. They're learning that Uncle Nathan's house is a peaceful place where they don't have to be loud or performative to be loved. Jennifer has apologized more times than I can count. She's shown me the research Michael had compiled on me, folders of articles, screenshots of my sparse social media, even a timeline of my deteriorating condition, which was really just a list of family events I'd chosen not to attend. The level of planning was disturbing. He had an answer for everything, she told me last week over coffee. Every time I questioned whether you were really that bad, he'd have another article, another expert opinion. He made me feel like a bad person for not seeing how much you were struggling. I've forgiven her. She was a victim of Michael's manipulation too, even if she benefited from it potentially. The fact that she left him when she learned the truth says everything about her character. Dr. Stevens and I still meet monthly, not because I need therapy, but because I've genuinely enjoyed having a professional to help me process this experience. He's helped me understand that standing firm in who you are, even when faced with intense pressure to change, is a form of strength many people never develop. Your brother tried to pathologize your autonomy, he said in our last session. He wanted you to believe that being different was being broken. But you never wavered in knowing yourself. That's remarkable. There's one final thing I need to share. Last month, I was cleaning out some old boxes and found a letter from my grandmother, written just before she died. I'd read it at the time but forgotten about it in the chaos of grief. In it, she explained why she left the apartment to me. Nathan, my quiet one. This home has been my sanctuary for 40 years, a place where I could be myself without apology or explanation. I see that same need in you, not for isolation, but for peace. For the right to choose silence over noise, solitude over crowds, depth over breadth in your relationships. The world will try to tell you there's something wrong with this. There isn't. This apartment has walls thick enough to shut out those voices when they get too loud. Use it well. I cried reading it again. She knew. She saw me, understood me, and gave me not just a home but a fortress against exactly the kind of attack I just survived. So that's where things stand. Michael is out of our lives, at least for now. The family is healing. Jennifer and the kids are doing well in their new apartment, smaller than mine, but filled with the laughter Michael claimed my place lacked. And I'm still here, in my grandmother's apartment, living my quiet life exactly as I choose to live it. To everyone who supported me through this journey, who validated my feelings and confirmed I wasn't crazy, thank you. Your voices helped drown out the gaslighting when it was at its worst. And to anyone reading this who's been told their personality is a problem, that their valid life choices are symptoms, that they need to be fixed to deserve respect or love, you don't. You're not broken. You're allowed to be exactly who you are, even if who you are doesn't fit someone else's idea of normal. Especially then. I won't be updating again unless something major happens, but I doubt it will. Michael burned every bridge so thoroughly that rebuilding them would take more effort than he's ever shown for anything except scheming. I'm safe, I'm at peace, and I'm alone in my apartment as I write this, exactly how I want to be. Some stories don't end with the hero surrounded by friends and family, celebrating their victory together. Sometimes they end with the hero finally, blissfully, left in peace. For me, that's the happiest ending of all.